When people talk about horror legends, Tobe Hooper's name inevitably comes up, usually followed by the words Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But nestled between chainsaws and poltergeists lies something different. A slow burn, gothic vampire story, broadcast on television in 1979. And it's terrifying. This is the story of how Tobe Hooper took a Stephen King novel and made one of the most chilling, atmospheric vampire movies ever put on screen, and how it somehow became his most overlooked masterpiece. In 1974, Hooper changed horror forever with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was gritty, brutal, and raw, the kind of film that left you feeling like you needed a shower. Just a few years later, CBS tapped him to direct the miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot, only the second novel King had published. This wasn't a slasher. It wasn't even an R-rated theatrical film. It was a two-part primetime TV event. And yet Hooper managed to inject it with pure dread, creating something uniquely haunting that pushed the limits of what network horror could be. Salem's Lot doesn't rely on jump scares. It trades gore for suggestion. The town of Jerusalem's Lot feels alive, or more accurately, slowly dying. Hooper lingers on empty streets, flickering lights, and wide shots of the ominous Marston house perched above the town like a predator. Cinematographer Jules Brenner, who also worked on Helter Skelter, uses shadow and candlelight to great effect. The darkness feels heavy. The horror comes in the silence. The dread. This is gothic horror through the lens of 1970s American anxiety. And then, there are the moments. The floating boy at the window, softly scratching on the glass. No music. Just wind. Fog. And that awful, unnatural movement. It's one of the most iconic vampire scenes in TV or film history. And then there's Barlow, Hooper's biggest divergence from King's original vision. In the novel, Barlow is suave, charismatic, more Dracula than monster. Hooper said, "Nope. We're going full Nosferatu." The result? A snarling, demonic figure that barely speaks, but dominates every scene he's in. It was a creative risk, and it paid off. When Salem's Lot aired in 1979, it pulled in over 18 million viewers. Critics praised its atmosphere, but some dismissed it as too slow. Over time, though, it gained a cult following. Stephen King called it one of his favorite adaptations. Horror directors like Guillermo del Toro and Mike Flanagan have cited it as a major influence. And yet, it rarely gets mentioned in the same breath as Hooper's other work. Why? Maybe because it was just a TV movie. Maybe because it doesn't feel like a Tobe Hooper film until you look closer. Salem's Lot is proof that horror doesn't need blood to be horrifying. It's moody, patient, elegant in its terror. And in a career filled with chainsaws, poltergeists, and sci-fi carnage, Tobe Hooper's most elegant horror film might just be his most forgotten. Forgotten by some, but not by fans. And definitely not by vampires. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. What's your favorite scene from Salem's Lot? Let me know in the comments. And remember, don't invite anyone in, unless you know they're human.